Hello and a very good evening to you from the KTN News Center here in Nairobi. Thank you very much for joining us for KTN Prime. Great to have you watching, whether it's on the air or online. Let's take a look at the headlines as we begin tonight's bulletin.
It's a grand code strategy to remove key pillars around President Uhuru Kenyatta with the intention of weakening the government.
I really have nothing to do with the troubles within Jubilee.
Stop blaming me for Jubilee government problems, Raila tells Jubilee MPs.
I want to apologize to Kenyans and state to Kenyans that I in no way intended to incite anyone.
I'm sorry, yet again. Yet another apology for yet another remark. Nakuru man suspected of sodomizing 13 boys to be charged tomorrow. And a narrow escape for Kaimenyi as MPs reject censure motion. Welcome to KTN Prime. I'm Nancy Kachungira. Mirasha Owiti is our sign language interpreter. The Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria says he has no regrets over his remarks that called for the slashing with pangas of those critical of the National Youth Service in his constituency. Kuria, however, says that he is sorry that his utterances were, according to him, misconstrued. Rita Tinina has the details.
Nakiraigire mwabe mukana mafaka manyu mafaka utoma gutugutatu namaigua murdozi ore mukaba mukase hamukarekerio go kana tuyoto wake.
Remarks by the Gatundu South legislature calling on his constituents to slash with pangas those opposed to the National Youth Service projects was met with outrage, especially on social media. At a press conference, Kuria sought to explain the circumstances under which he spoke.
So at that point, I was addressing the youth of my constituency. They were angry. I was angry. And in no way did I mean to incite anyone.
He says his remarks have been taken out of context, and for that.
But to the extent to which anyone may be offended by those remarks, I want to apologize to Kenyans and state to Kenyans that I in no way intended to incite anyone.
Kuria is not apologetic over his utterances or remorseful for making them. He's only sorry that they were, according to him, misinterpreted.
I don't regret. I regret the fact that it has been misconstrued and being misinterpreted.
He is blaming the accusations of incitement on what he terms as politics, arguing that his remarks only came to the fore 12 days after he made them.
If the so-called incitement was contained in that recording, for 12 days, the incitement would have killed the whole world. That nothing has happened in 12 days is actually manifestation that this so-called storm is nothing but a storm in a teacup.
The National Cohesion and Integration Commission Chair, Francis Ole Kaparo, has petitioned the Inspector General of Police and the Director of CID to investigate and arrest the MP, who is already facing hate speech charges. Rita Tinina, KTN.
Somewhat an apology. Well, Court leader Raila Odinga insists that the Gatundu South MP Moses Kuria's controversial remarks have shown Kenyans that Kuria does not have what it takes to be a leader. Raila also reacted to the claims by other central Kenya MPs last evening that Court was trying to destabilize the Jubilee government. Here's part of that interview. Thank you for speaking to us this evening. Let's start by talking about some of the allegations that are coming from the Jubilee camp about what Court is doing to destabilize Jubilee, engineering the exit of some of its key members. We can talk about Kaimenyi, the fire he's come under, and now you've been very vocal about Waiguru as well, asking her to step aside. What's your response to that?
Well, I really have nothing to do with the troubles within Jubilee. I confine myself to my role as the leader of the opposition, which is to keep the government of the day on check and to point out where they go wrong and also to point out what they should be doing. In other words, being constructive in our criticism. This is what in the UK they call Her Majesty's loyal opposition. So we really do not have a responsibility in the crisis that they're facing. They are facing the crisis of their own making. See, if you take, for example, the issues with Mr. Kaimenyi, he has been told, and even we have told him several times, that he needs to listen to the people and also to the teachers whom he is leading. That sector is a very crucial sector to this economy. There have been several suggestions which he has completely refused to respond to positively. Been very obstinate. Like when he was told that people would like to see a competition among schools in exams. So people have been used to seeing schools compete and the list of how schools have performed. That also helps parents to be able to make decisions on where to send their children. He's been very stubborn because of the so-called recommendations of a committee which did not consult extensively. The issues of package for the teachers. We know, of course, that the economy is having some problems, but there's need always for consultations with the major stakeholders before far-reaching decisions are made. With regard to Mrs. Waiguru, I have said that I have nothing personal against her. I know that she's a hard-working minister, but there have been some very serious allegations made regarding her own docket about probity in management of resources. Like, for example, she's talking about this attempted fraud. But even before that fraud, there are questionable transactions which have taken place in that docket which require investigations. By her own admission yesterday, that out of the 860 million shillings attempted fraud, she says that 136 was paid genuinely. And if they're saying that they stopped the fraud, which was being done as a result of the stolen password, then how does a part of that transaction become legal? You ask yourself, because the password was stolen. So any penny paid as a result of that transaction is illegal. That is a question that begs answers. The Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee has written to Auditor General to carry out a forensic audit of her docket. If you go by precedence, some ministers, over 4 ministers, were asked to step aside because they were under investigations. So you ask yourself, what is so special about her that she cannot step aside? We have not said that she should be dismissed. All we have said is that she should step aside to facilitate investigations.
Let's talk about Okoa Kenya. This is a project that started with a lot of momentum, something that we've seen slow down a little, and some quarters are saying that this is a slow puncture project. Has Okoa Kenya stalled?
Nothing could be further from the truth. What we are going through is just a calm before the storm. You know, this is a process that has got phases. Phase 1 was basically to introduce the entire idea to the people so that we could understand why Okoa Kenya, and then get the people's reaction and suggestions at what needed to be done. So once that phase was over, we appointed this committee of experts to go around and to get views and summarize it into a proposal, which they did. That was subjected again to a debate. And then finally, that committee has now completed a draft bill, which basically now is centered on 3 issues: devolution, inclusivity, and the electoral process. So that is, they are now going to launch a website shortly through which there could be interaction with the public. Then the draft is going to be submitted to the IEBC with the signatures, 1 million signatures. After that, then the real process starts. The IEBC will then publish the bill and then send it to the people. It will be sent to the people, and then also will be sent to the various county assemblies. The county assemblies, 47 of them, are supposed to debate it and pass it or reject it, as the case may be. The law requires that at least 24 counties must approve it before it goes to Parliament. Then it goes to Parliament, that is the Senate and the National Assembly. And after that, that's when it now goes to a referendum. That's when the real campaign is going to start. But after we've submitted it to the IEBC, then we are going to begin to popularize it. See? So this is now not the time. But once it has been submitted to IEBC, and then the actual campaign will start. So that's why I'm saying it is just a calm before a storm. It's not that it has stalled. It has not stalled.
And just to get your thoughts on Moses Kuria's latest utterances, he's no stranger to controversy, and this latest one caused some uproar. What's your take on that?
I do not really want to talk about people whose mental probity I have some doubt about. I will not respond to Moses Kuria.
The Big Q, in association with Fidelity Insurance.
Well, from that interview with Raila Odinga, let's go to our big Q this evening. One of the things that he did say is that Jubilee is facing a crisis of its own making. Unlike what some MPs from central Kenya have been saying, that CORD is trying to destabilize the Jubilee government. So that's what we're asking you this evening. Do you support those claims that CORD is trying to destabilize the Jubilee administration? Go ahead and share your thoughts with us. Also use the hashtag Raila Answers Jubilee. You can tweet us at KTN News KE and at Kachingira. Or if you'd rather send a text message, do that. And you can send it to 22155. Start with a yes or no, and we'll have a poll result for you later on in the bulletin. We look forward to hearing what you have to say this evening. Now, as we move on, Education Cabinet Secretary Professor Jacob Kaimenyi has survived an impeachment motion in Parliament today. Proponents of the motion failed to muster the backing of 117 legislators required to move the motion to the next stage. A total of 89 members of Parliament voted to have Kaimenyi impeached. In the impeachment motion by Matayos MP Geoffrey Odanga, Kaimenyi had been accused of arrogance and mishandling of the procurement of laptops for Standard 1 pupils.
Members of the boards going there and then going back home without facilitation. This means that quite a number of them do not make for the meetings, or they are not motivated. For that matter, Mr. Speaker, I want to say the Cabinet Secretary must go.
Just recently, we had problems with teachers in the northeastern province. And the Cabinet Secretary did not come up with a pragmatic solution.
Huyu bwana hata hasikii. Huyu bwana ndiye mtu ambaye anafuata nyayo za Mheshimiwa Duale. Ujeuri, ubabe. Ubabe. Mheshimiwa Spika, haya maisha ya ubabe ya kuonyesha kuwa wewe ndiye.
How do you measure arrogance? Many people, Mr. Speaker, many people call Honorable Duale is arrogant because I am firm. I tell you the truth on the face.
Cabinet Secretary Kaimenyi is not a good man. I doubt that he will go to heaven. I don't think he will go to heaven with his conduct. But Mr. Speaker, this is not about heaven. The National Assembly has no power to judge good men and bad men. That is not our work. Our work is to look at the law, look at the Constitution, and check whether a Cabinet Secretary has infringed that Constitution. And Cabinet Secretary Kaimenyi has not infringed the Constitution. His arrogance is neither here nor there.
I oppose with the facts and ask Odanga, do not carry the baggage of one Sosion who denied the children of Northern Kenya teachers.
Well, you know, it's serious when it gets to one's ability to get into heaven. Now, police in Nakuru have arrested a 35-year-old man for allegedly sodomizing 13 boys aged below 15 years in a school at Kaptembo Estate. The suspect is reported to have lured the minors into his house over the weekends under the guise of helping them improve on their weaker subjects.
This is the man now in custody of the police at Kaptembo Station for allegedly sodomizing 13 boys aged between 8 years and 15 years old at Kaptembo Estate. It is said that Cyrus Nyamora stays alone and has been providing the boys with religious training. A head teacher at the school, Lynette Maingi, says they noticed that the boys had started acting in an unusual manner before they were persuaded to reveal what happened. Nursing officer in charge of the gender-based violence department at the Nakuru Referral Hospital, Teofila Murage, says it is suspected that the man also laced the boys' tea with drugs such as bang before he defiled them. Murage said the suspect will undergo psychiatric tests as investigations continue into this case. Kamche Menza, KTN, Nakuru County.
Very sad for those young boys. Now let's give you an update on that attack in Mandera yesterday. The bodies of the 14 people who were killed in yesterday's attack by Al-Shabaab in Mandera were availed for identification. This came as leaders from Nyeri County asked the government to provide better employment opportunities for the non-local residents of Mandera. Ian Wafula tells us more.
At the Chiromo mortuary, the scenes were not any different from those that followed previous terror attacks. More deaths and more families left to deal with the aftermath of the Al-Shabaab attack. This time round, 14 people fell victim when the terrorist group ambushed residential houses in Mandera early Tuesday. And when the bodies of the victims were availed for identification, the pain was too much to bear for some, while others opted to keep away from the morgue until reality dawned on them that their loved ones were no more.
So far, we have 10 people registered, and the process is on. The psychosocial support is on, whereby after psychosocial support, they'll go for identification and postmortem.
Others like this man, a survivor from Tuesday's attack, was at the mortuary to identify his father. Both of them had relocated to Mandera.
Walikuja wakapiga tu marisasi, unajua akiwa nje, lakini watu walikuwa wanapanda tu juu ya ceiling. Watu wengi sana waliingia juu ya ceiling. Mwenye hakufaulu kupanda juu ya ceiling ndio wao wanasikia walikufa. Yani mwenye alichelewa kupanda si juu ya ceiling.
The families were not short of questions. Most of them directed at Kieni Member of Parliament Kanini Kega, whose constituents are not new to the terror attacks in northern Kenya.
I'm urging my people who are in either Mandera or Garissa, if they are not offering those very essential services, the best thing is to evacuate from that place. If they don't have transport, I'm ready to offer them transport, and I will also be talking to the government to see how we can evacuate those people. If it has happened once, twice, third time, what would stop them from attacking the fourth time?
In the December attack, when 36 quarry workers were killed, 12 of them were from Nyeri. The number now adds up to 20 after 8 more were killed during Tuesday's attack.
If Duare and company had given those names as they had said, because they said categorically that they have credible information as to who are funding, who are sympathizers, and maybe also who are the Al-Shabaabs are. Honestly, I believe this act would not have happened as it did yesterday.
Tungetaka hata mambo ya kazi president wetu naye angalie aone kama ni janga ingine kwa vijana, kwa sababu hawa vijana wanatoka kwetu na pia kwetu kuna mawe, lakini mawe yetu ile inapigwa huko bei yake ni duni, na wakienda Mandera wanapigwa wanalipwa na bei mzuri, na ndio wanaenda huko Mandera.
Sentiments that were echoed by leaders from Nyeri County government.
We want to encourage the formation of cooperatives. We will develop a regulatory framework whereby we can work with these young men and other stakeholders, for example, the owners of the co-op.
We are really going to support the families, even the sick in hospital.
We are organizing a prayer day, maybe next week, for the whole county.
For now, 9 indigenous residents remain in Mandera. Most of them have opted to down their tools as they wait on the government to find a way to keep them safe. Ian Wafula, KTN.
Elsewhere, operations at the multi-million Keroche breweries were paralyzed for the whole day as the management fought back an attempt to raid the premises. A group of youth eager to destroy the company's products were kept at bay by anti-riot police officers at the main gate. However, senior officers led by Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Osman Warfa and Naivasha MP John Kihagi did enter the factory. At one time, Kenya Bureau of Standards officers disabled the production and locked the bonded warehouse to the anger of the management. The CEO, Tabitha Karanja, resisted attempts to ferry Keroche products to the police station, saying that she had paid taxes to KRA and adhered to all rules. The CEO is blaming the area MP John Kihagi for her woes.
The CEO, the head of this organization, off. Everybody to go. And now, excuse me.
You're watching KTN Prime. We take a quick break, but of course we're still looking forward to hearing from you on our big queue this evening. Raila Answers Jubilee is our hashtag. Go ahead and tweet us at KTN News KE at Kachingira, or send an SMS to 22155 and let us know on our big queue this evening whether you support claims that CORD is trying to destabilize the Jubilee administration. Welcome back to KTN Prime. Glad you were able to stay with us. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission detectives this morning caught 5 traffic police officers who have allegedly been running a cartel exploiting road users in Nairobi. The EACC says that they've been conducting surveillance on the officers for several weeks now. KTN's Timothy Otieno has that story.
From a distance, they look like a regular set of cops going about their daily routine.
Please, don't make any movement.
But soon enough, the scenes changed to something that could attract the attention of the EACC. This traffic cop was nabbed while allegedly exploiting unsuspecting Kenyans on the road.
Yes, sir. Ukikataa kunipea jina is an offense. You are refusing with the information. I need your name.
The officer, alongside 5 others, were allegedly caught demanding bribes from matatu operators within Nairobi. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission officers say that they have been monitoring their every move for several days now. It is believed they demand between 200 to 1,000 shillings per vehicle per day. It is claimed that the 5 officers, who normally operate along the Moi Avenue Haile Selassie roundabout, have been duping drivers and charging them for fake traffic offenses.
Ukipanda hapo kwa mlima ukienda kuingia town, hapo normally wanatusimamisha, anaingia kwa gari, unampatia kama ni 200 ndio 200 anashuka, sasa ndio wewe unateremka, unamwaga watu na
But the EACC says these are not just regular cops who demand bribes from drivers. They allegedly have an office, a fake one, and it is located in this building on River Road in Nairobi. The EACC officials say they bring drivers who fail to pay up to this office and threaten to revoke their driving licenses. And thus, the anti-corruption detectives say the 5 were nabbed with over 500 driving licenses, as well as a logbook and several bank slips. Several bags and traffic police clothes were also seized in the swoop. The 5 were taken to the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission offices to be questioned. The EACC say one, however, escaped with an unknown amount of money, and the hunt for him is ongoing. Timothy Otieno, KTN.
Quite an operation. They even have an office. Now, CORD leaders want the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission to postpone the launch of the controversial strategic plan scheduled for tomorrow. The opposition, led by CORD leader Raila Odinga, says that they were not consulted and they cannot be a part of a document that seeks to shape the electoral body and improve electoral processes. But IEBC Vice Chairperson Lilian Mahirizaja said that the commission had consulted with all parties and stakeholders.
We have proposed to the Commission that they postpone the intended launch tomorrow so that there can be more consultations with other stakeholders, so that there is also some input from other stakeholders. There are very critical issues that are involved here, which requires extensive consultations from both sides of the political divide.
The main issue for today's meeting was the fact that the Electoral Commission has not been formally engaging the opposition, and we are stakeholders in the electoral process. Secondly, it's about a strategic plan which they intend to launch tomorrow, and we are telling them clearly we are not party to it, because we were not party to its development. We are therefore urging them to postpone the launch, prepare a workshop so that we can also input into that report all political parties, and also have a structured engagement with the opposition and with all other stakeholders on how to reform the electoral laws.
We do not want to give a decision here. We make our decisions collectively. We have to go back, consult the other commissioners, and then we shall give our response before close of business today.
The University of Eldoret has been closed indefinitely for the second time in 5 months. This follows hours of student protests that caused damage to property around the campus. Let's go to Mercy Kandia for the rest of that story.
They carried what they could in a rush before 2 p.m., the deadline for vacating the university. The destruction left behind is part of the reason for the indefinite closure of the University of Eldoret, but the demonstrations are said to have started in the morning when officials of the Students' Governing Council led a protest over alleged fee increment.
Fisi yote imeongezwa, ukienda italingana na portfolio yako. Ukienda kwa portfolio yako unapata pesa imeongezwa. Kama ulikuwa ulipe 33 unakuta ni 38 ama 40 ama 45. Kulingana kwa sisi unafanya.
Shortly after, anti-riot police arrived at the university to quell the protest, which got out of hand. And through a memo, the university's vice-chancellor ordered the immediate closure due to the unrest that was coordinated by student leaders, some of who were arrested by the police.
Hii itakula wakati wetu kwa sababu tulikuwa tuanze mtihani tarehe 1 August. Sasa na saa hii ni tarehe 8. Sana nitakula time yetu ya kusomea mtihani ama hata ikule siku za mtihani.
Some students claimed that the Vice-Chancellor had rejected calls for dialogue. However, Vice-Chancellor Professor Teresa Akenga on phone denied allegations that the university had hiked tuition fees, saying the payment has remained constant since the institution was a constituent college. According to Akenga, due to rising electricity, water costs and other logistics, accommodation, attachment and library costs were reviewed upward by the committee that factored in student leadership participation. The VC also lamented that external interference and incitement of students was the cause of the chaos. The university was in February this year closed after Uasin Gishu Senator Isaac Meli and other leaders led the students in a massive protest over corruption allegations against Professor Akenga.
When we brought this issue at the first time, a number of people called us tribalist. But we said since this thing was not has nothing to do with tribalism, let the independent institutions of parliament and even higher education come and investigate and get to know exactly what is happening.
The Senate Committee on Education picked up the matter and a report is expected out in a fortnight, according to Senator Melly. Marcy Kandia, KTN, Eldoret, Uasin Gishu County.
Very unfortunate for those students who've had their learning disrupted. Let me remind you of our big Q this evening. We're asking you whether you support claims that CORD is trying to destabilize the Jubilee administration. The hashtag we're using tonight is Raila Answers Jubilee. I'd like to read you a few tweets now. There's one here from Patricia Abuya. Yours is a no. You say CORD is just doing its job as an opposition party. If Jubilee were doing a good job, no one would be complaining. On the other side of the coin, there's a yes from Robert Tarrix. You say, well, yes, they should leave the Jubilee government to do their tasks and not interfere. One here from Simon Kimani. You say, please rejuvenate your... sorry, I read that wrong. You say the government, this is Caleb Boss, you say the government has failed on corruption, jobs, insecurity, etc. The CORD coalition has a right to ask questions.
And a very good evening. Welcome to KTN Business. My name is Abi Agina. It has been 1 day since the Monetary Policy Committee announced an increase in both the benchmark central bank rate and the Kenya Bank's reference rate, setting the stage for pricier loans. Adilai Chengoli sat down with Mbithi Mulei from Africa Alliance to establish how the news was being received by both market players and investors, and who stands to gain or lose from the decision.
The move by the central bank, was it expected in your estimation?
It was slightly higher than what people expected, but overall the sentiment was okay, it's a good thing, let's see how it's going to support the currency. And I think just to add on to your question as well, today we've not seen any much change on the currency. It's at 100 spot 2. Nothing much has changed at this point in time, but hopefully we'll be able to see the benefits of this on the currency in the longer term.
What are the immediate effects that we should anticipate now with this rate hike? 3% in 2 months, 1.5% in subsequent months.
If you depend on any bank loan, whether it's mortgage long term, whether you depend on overdraft facilities to run your business, whether you even use your credit card on a normal basis, or you just generally go and get liabilities, rather you go get loans from the banks to finance some of the things that you're doing, you'll have to think about it differently, because it's going to be very expensive for you. And then the fact that the CBK on one end is also chasing the same liquidity and trying to pull it out of the market means it'll become more expensive to get that kind of credit.
Who do you think will be the gainers of this move by the central bank?
Your blue chip counters, that's Safaricom, that's Equity Bank, that's KCB, that's East African breweries. Some of these counters are coming from EABL, for example. It was at a high of about 320, today it's at 270. So the lower it goes and you're, for example, an individual investor, then it presents an opportunity for you to start looking at it to see how you will make money in the coming years. Then the other asset class we wanted to look at was on bonds. Bonds today, if you're an individual and you want to invest in the government, they'll probably give you a higher coupon on some of the issuances that they bring out compared to what they would have given you 6 months ago. So it becomes a good investment opportunity for you. Companies that normally come out and issue corporate debt paper, the last one was at 13.2%, so they will be forced to demand a higher price because the liquidity will not necessarily be there. So if you're an individual and you have 100,000 and you're looking for somewhere to put it, you're guaranteed of getting anything north of 13%, at least for the next 6 to 12 months. So if I'm a mama mboga now, it will become more.
Well, indeed, interesting insights there around what efforts are being made in terms of stabilizing the shilling. Of course, we'll be keeping an eye on that story and how it continues to develop moving forward. Time now for the adventurer. Kenya's real estate and construction industry has been identified as one of the fastest growing sectors of the economy, with latest data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics showing that it grew by 11.3% in the first 3 months this year. On this week's episode of The Adventurer, KTN's Charles Kitonga speaks to Washira Mugoku and Andrew Kamau, the brains trust behind Dinara Developers, which started as a land selling company and is now carving up a name for itself in the real estate sector.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you. My name is Charles. I would like to see the MD.
Okay, welcome to Dinara. Mr. Abed is expecting you. I'll walk you to his office.
Okay.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome to The Adventurer, and this week we'd like to take a look at real estate and construction. We'll talk to the founder of Dinara Developers, one of the companies that has served this market for about 5 years.
My name is Ashira Mogoko. I am one of the founders and a director of the Dinara Developers Company. Dinara Developers Company is a company that is owned and run by 2 directors, I and my colleague Andrew Kamau.
When did Dinara start and where did that idea come from?
The idea of Dinara Developers Limited started back in the year 2011. Then we were doing the business of supplying construction materials to different people. And in the process, we realized we could also sell land. And we came up with a concept of bringing people together, buying land for them, subdividing, and at the end of the day making our small profits. We had a very good idea, but we were short of capital. So from our previous business, we were able to raise less than 300,000 shillings, which we used to set up the office for the business. And after the office, now that's how we were able to sell our concept from a central point. We have projects in Thika. We have done 169 units, all apartments. We went ahead, we had another project in Kiambu Road, the Ndegwa. We are doing our second project right now, which is a project of 36 houses currently. There is one that is almost through, still that has got 30 houses. We have projects elsewhere. We have standalone houses, the ones that people call mansionettes in a beautiful gated community. It's along the eastern bypass between Thika Highway and the airport.
Now this is the Mazuri side project, 169 apartments coming up, and Mr. Washira, you can tell us about this project.
This project is located in Thika, Makongeni, closer to all the facilities. We have the one and the only shopping mall in Thika next to us. We have banks around us, the marketplace, post office, schools, and everything else that one would need for a comfortable life. It's a project that we are anticipating to complete by the end of October. The project is approximately $500 million plus or minus. This is my co-director, Mr. Andrew Kamau Mohio, whom I earlier mentioned you too. And I think he can share more on the real estate industry, the dynamics and the challenges that are involved in the industry.
One of the biggest challenges of this industry has been highly unregulated. We do not have skilled manpower. If you get a good fundi, maybe initially they were casual workers who graduated to become a fundi, just skilled manpower is a challenge. There's also the abrupt change in government policy from the national government and the county government, because we invest so much money depending on maybe the policy that was there today. Then next month you hear it has changed. What happens? You really have to undergo a very big loss.
One of the signs of a growing industry is its ability to support small businesses, and going by the story of Dinara, then real estate is one of those industries. Opportunities are immense. If they don't knock, build the door. Charles Kitonga for The Adventurer.
Well, indeed, an interesting story of how they started off, and now they are making millions as they are providing houses for Nairobians. KenGen has announced plans to add 450 megawatts of electricity to the grid by 2017. The power generator hopes to achieve this through a mix of geothermal and wind as it seeks to meet the rising demand. Here is more. In its latest undertaking, power generator KenGen is keen on raising the installed power capacity by nearly 20% in under 2 years.
We have 2 projects that are in what we call implementation stage. And one is the Okaria 1, Unit 6, 70 megawatts. Okaria 5, 140 megawatts.
The push to drive down power costs has been a key area of focus for the government, with manufacturers pointing to the higher cost of power as a barrier to trade.
We've seen the cost of power coming down slightly. So as we continue putting up more geothermal, what the country will see is more stable power that's not affected by weather, as is the case in the hydros. Better price power, which is not affected by foreign exchange, as is the case for thermal, because that one burns fossil fuel, which is also affected by the international oil prices.
Other than geothermal, KTN is also keen to grow output from wind power with a 100 megawatt wind farm planned in Meru County.
We have conducted a feasibility study and we have a very good site which can have as much as 400 megawatts.
The project is expected to cost 11 billion shillings with financing expected from the French and German development institutions. The project could expand to 400 megawatts by 2025. The government expects to expand the installed capacity to about 6,700 megawatts by 2017 from the available currently. KTN also announced that it had obtained backing from the government to proceed with its planned 15 billion shillings rights issue.
We've been able to get a transaction advisor, actually a number of advisors who will take us, who will walk us through as we prepare for the rights issue. This is Standard Investment Bank and Renaissance Capital. They are working together. So we've had 2 meetings now. So we are in the process of that preparation.
KTN in its 2014 financial results reported a profit after tax of 4.9 billion shillings in the 6 months to December compared to 1 billion shillings a year earlier. Revenue during the period stood at 11.6 billion shillings. Abi Agina, KTN Business. And that's how we wrap up KTN Business for today. Of course, tomorrow we'll be giving you more highlights in terms of what's been making headlines across the business world. What to look out for tomorrow, there'll be a property report being released by Has Consult. You won't want to miss that. My name is Abi Gina. Have yourselves a lovely evening.
Welcome to KTN Sports. Bandari FC narrowly edged Ushuru FC to a 1-0 win in a Kenya Premier League match played at the Mombasa County Stadium. Elsewhere in Nairobi, leaders and defending champions Gor Mahia extended their unbeaten run as they powered past Thika United with a 2-0 win at the City Stadium. Robinson Okenya has the details.
Though Gor Mahia fans will have to wait a little longer to see their new acquisition Paul Wairo in action, Kogalo took on Thika United keen to extend their unbeaten run as Enoch Agwanda made his debut. Whereas international transfer certificate issue is yet to be settled. The first 45 minutes, however, ended without a goal scored for either sides. But host Gor Mahia came back a rejuvenated side and Collins Okoth came agonizingly close to opening the scoring. The Green Army, however, did not have to wait longer as Ugandan left-back Godfrey Walusimbi found the opener in the 63rd minute. Prolific scorer Michael Olunga was on target as he netted Kogalo's second of the match and in turn giving the Green Army victory.
We've got a group of players who are determined to be winners. They've got fantastic focus and desire. And so it's those guys that do it, and they've got a good squad.
There's no shame in our performance whatsoever. I think we played good football. You know, we're in a building stage at the moment, and we've got things to work on.
In Mombasa, Bandari displayed quality football to beat Ushuru by a solitary goal tapped in by Farid Mohammed. In Nakuru, host Ulinzi Stars settled to a 1-1 draw with the visiting Tusker FC. That point enabled Ulinzi Stars to move within 2 points of second place Sofapaka. In other matches, Sony Sugar registered a barren draw against Muhoroni, while Mathare United grabbed a 1-all draw with Western Stima. FC Leopard banked 3 points in their 2-1 win over KCB, while Nakuru All-Star picked up a point in the 1-all draw with City Stars. With Gor Mahia currently on 45 points from 17 games, it remains to be seen who among the remaining 13 teams will hand them their first defeat of the season. Robinson Okenye, KTN Sports.
Jericho's Camp Toyoyo, that has honed hundreds of talented players in the country, has got a much-needed facelift. The ground becomes the third in the country with an artificial turf after neighbouring City Stadium and the Moi Stadium in Kisumu. The Makadara Constituency Development Fund pumped in 50 million shillings to get the surface modernised.
Jericho's Camp Toyoyo joined the list of stadia in the country with a modern surface. The famous stadium has produced some of the country's best talents in football, notably former Harambee Stars captain Musa Otieno, Jacob Gosmule and George Waweru. The current crop of players now have themselves to blame if they do not improve their skills after Makadara Constituency Development Fund spent 50 million shillings to refurbish the facility.
Sports is our cash crop here. The reason why we did this project, these are as per the demands and the needs of our people. It has been there for many years.
Camp Toyoyo joined City Stadium and Moi Stadium in Kisumu, which were renovated with funds from Football World Governing Body FIFA. The facility will officially be unveiled next week, but can now host the top-tier league in the country, the Kenya Premier League.
Because of the weather conditions, we had to stop for about a month in December. We again stopped for a month in April for the long rains. But here we are. The field is playable by next week.
There are plans to fix floodlights and rehabilitation of the terraces so that matches can be played at night. Stakeholders hope that the government that promised 5 new sporting facilities can borrow a queue and rehabilitate the available ones.
Area moba tuna kama Makadara viwanja zetu sipo na si standard. Sasa itapatia vijana pia morali ya kucheza bora.
Future footballers will come from here. They've come from here before, but this is another catalyst.
Hassan Juma, KTN Sports.
KTN Weather in association with More Team Do. Big Q in association with Fidelity Insurance.
We go back to our Big Q. Just before we wrap up the program, we asked you whether you support claims that CORD is trying to destabilize the Jubilee administration. Let's take a look at the poll results. Well, 42% say yes and 58% say no. Taking a look now at some of your feedback, I'll read a couple of SMSs here. This one from Thuo in Kiambu. Thank you for writing in. And you say CORD targeting Jubilee workers and destabilizing the good work they are doing. So it's a yes for you. Maria in Nairobi, yours is a no. You say Jubilee thrives on unilateral decisions from State House, ignorance, bad policies and polished tribalism. They sent home distinguished state officials and replaced them with sycophants and now make false claims against CORD. They made their bed, let them lie in it. Maggie from Nairobi, you say it's a yes for you. You think CORD is trying to destabilize the Jubilee government, but they will not succeed. And Odima, your SMS is no, it's not realistic that Raila Odinga is trying to destabilize the government. They're facing their own crisis. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us this evening. Well, that's it for this edition of KTN Prime. Thank you so much for having joined us. Meresha Owiti was our sign language interpreter, and I'm Nancy Kachungira. Up next is Jeff Koinange Live. Enjoy the rest of your viewing on KTN, and I'll catch you again tomorrow.